what is the sound? What sounds good with it? Especially if you're trying to like imitate. If you're orchestrating and using virtual instruments, then you have to, really kind of think like that and be sensitive to the sound and respond to it and know, what's appropriate and what's cool and what's not.
Hello again, everybody. This is Craig Peters here from Soundiron, and today on the Soundiron Podcast, we talk with keyboard player virtuoso Jordan Rudess. Voted best keyboardist of all time by Music Radar magazine, Jordan Rudess is best known as the keyboardist and multi-instrumentalist extraordinaire for platinum-selling Grammy-nominated prog rock band Dream Theater. He's been playing music since a very early age and was even accepted into the Julliard School of Music at the age of 9. Even though he started off playing classical piano, he later developed an interest in synths and progressive rock, which led him to play with the Dixie Dregs and eventually the progressive metal legends Dream Theater. In this podcast, we talk a little bit about what he's up to with Dream Theater as they're currently in the studio right now working on their newest album. We also talk a little bit about his upcoming tour with Meola and much more. So without further ado, here's the podcast with Jordan Rudess. So it's really awesome to get to sit down and talk with you. I'd like to know a little bit of, how things are going in the world of Jordan Rudess.
Things have been very, very busy. It was a rockin' summer on many levels just because there's so many things happening. For one, literally last night I just put the final touches on all the keyboard tracks for the new Dream Theater album, which is due out around February. So we kind of celebrated that last night, and of course it's still underway because there's a little bit more to go. We're doing vocal tracks, got to be mixed, mastered, and all that kind of good stuff. Really exciting. I'm very pleased with what was laid down. Everybody sounds great. It's I think it's going to be a really strong album. It's got a little something for everyone. It's a little heavier than what we've been doing lately. All kinds of cool leads and riffs and like fun stuff. So that's exciting. And then, and beyond that, I've been working really hard, almost like simultaneously on a new solo album, which is going to be coming out through Mascot, which I don't have a release date for it right now. The Dream Theater album will come out before it. But at the same time, I'm almost done with that. We've been working on mixes and getting that all together. Really excited about it. Got some great players, guest players on it. And this is a lot of fun, fun stuff. So, I'm happy to be kind of like done with the Dream Theater tracks and now kind of like opening to the next chapter. I'm going to be going out and doing, actually this month, I'm going to be going out and, as a special guest of Meola doing a bunch of West Coast shows and all the.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, all the dates are on my website so people can see it. So it's all solo piano, kind of shows for me.
That's awesome. How did you actually hook up with Meola as far as working with him and doing the tour with him?
I hooked up with this through my agent. So the same group that books Dream Theater also books me on a solo level. And so, excuse me, so they were, kind of keeping their eyes open because I've been doing these solo shows of late. I'm really enjoying it. So they found this nice outlet for me to play, which is opening up for Al. So it was offered to me, and I said, yes, it sounds awesome. So I'm doing that. So that's in September. I think it's about 9 shows, all West Coast shows. That's cool. And then I think tickets have already gone on sale for some shows in Japan. Not in front of the dates at the moment, but they'll be on my website soon, and that's in November. And working out also details because it looks pretty much certain that I'll be doing some solo shows down in South America. So all that will kind of take up this period of time before, Dream Theater's tour comes up, which should happen. When are we going on tour? I think March, something like that. Yeah, cool. After the new album comes out. Busy but fun time.
Yeah, I know it seems pretty busy if you're working on all that stuff at one time. That's crazy. Speaking of Dream Theater, I've been a huge Dream Theater fan since I think like back in the early 2000s. A friend of mine, he played me some stuff from Scenes from a Memory, and it just blew my mind. I've never heard music like that before because before, my idea of, metal was like Pantera and Metallica and stuff. So like, I remember when hearing some of like, cause you guys do a lot of unison solo stuff with, keyboards and guitars. And I remember thinking like, it sounds like video game music. I was like, I've never heard anything like that. And it's just crazy that people are actually playing it. And, as far as the new album, can you talk a little bit about the process as far as, I guess, the idea behind the concept or sort of where you guys wanted to go? Cause I know before that you guys did the Astonishing, which is this big, epic concept album. And one of the things that I was wondering is when it came to this album and when you guys were writing, did you guys have any sort of specific concept in mind, or?
Well, yeah, our concept was not to create a concept album because as much as we loved The Astonishing and so many people did, it was also a bit polarizing for some of our fans. Some fans really embraced it and got it. Other fans were like, what's this? I don't get it.
Yeah.
So when we came around time to do this album, we were kind of like, okay, well, now we need to figure out what we want to deliver and deliver something that we would, first of all, love, because that's, I think, probably the top of our list and should be the top of every artist's list, to create something that they themselves really are behind. So we wanted to do that. So we kind of like dialed it in a little bit. Every now and then it's good to try to get a perspective of who you are, in this case, who we are as a group, and what it's all about, and what's the core of what we do, and what would be really fun for people to hear, and what would we enjoy doing. And we kind of came about recording this album from that point of view, like stepping back, looking at it, and just trying to create something that was really, honest and that we would all just really love. So, over the next, 2-3 months, you'll be hearing a lot more about it,
Awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Like, so it's not really a concept at all, or is it more like each song is kind of more of its own identity and story, like different topics?
It's not a concept album at all.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Yeah, because that's totally, very different from sort of what you guys have been doing.
And what's funny is that, very different than any of the Dream Theater album we've ever done. Like, if you literally go onto Dream Theater's Facebook site right now, you could hear, like, little moments of the music through, like, we just put up a little video, John Petrucci and I, of when I finished the keyboard tracks, and there's little bits in the video that kind of, touch of a lead or touch of a chordal part. So we've never done that before, where you could actually hear, like, a moment of the music. Just for fun ahead of time like that. So we're a little bit more. We've been embracing a little bit more of the social media scene and the idea of engaging with fans and kind of turn that into a fun and productive way to have this album kind of build, and then of course its release. So that's been interesting, especially for me, because I'm coming from a place of kind of embracing social media way back when, and doing video chats with multiple people, and at times when people didn't even know that existed.
Yeah.
So for me to see my own group and everybody in it kind of become more comfortable with using social media and having fun with it.
Yeah, definitely.
I just think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, and I think it's really great for the fans too. I mean, I've been noticing you guys have been very active as far as that too, and you as well on Instagram. I've been seeing you post a lot of stuff, and it's funny, as a guitar player, I've been seeing you post stuff with you playing guitar, which it's crazy to see, because I'm so known with you being just this phenomenal keyboard player, and it's like, I mean, I'm not a keyboardist. I kind of dabble a little bit, but seeing you now on guitar, and actually it's like every little video I see you post, it just gets better and better, and it's kind of disheartening. I'm just like, man, like I totally understand it, because I feel like the way that you approach an instrument, being able to sort of carry that over, that the dedication and the focus and the sort of applying the the practice elements and stuff. Is that something that you've been kind of doing for your own music, or?
Well, I've played guitar off and on, mostly off, for many years. Ever since I learned to play the piano, I've kind of occasionally picked up a guitar, but never there's only been a couple of periods where I actually would say that I was like practicing it consistently for any bit of time. It was always something where I could kind of play, and a little bit every now and then I would say to John Bertucci, let me see your guitar a minute, and try to remember where a few things were. But this most recent period of time, I was kind of like, you know what? I really want to start to get into this and and focus on it, because I have, we can talk about it some in our conversation, but I have an app company that makes software, and my latest software is called GeoShred, and it's a really cool piece of software for iOS, and you can really shred on it, and the layout is very much kind of like guitar centric. I mean, it has when you play it, a guitar player would probably be the first one to kind of like recognize the layout on the playing surface. So I kind of felt like my brain was dialed into that, and I thought I could translate that a little bit, and it would help me when I go back into the guitar. So I've been practicing, and the best thing is, I think when you're a serious musician and you play an instrument and you know how to practice, when you go to another instrument, it really, really helps, because then you kind of have the discipline and the knowledge of what practice really means, and how to improve. And certainly that's a great help to me on the guitar, because I definitely can translate some of my, exercises that I do, some of the types of thinking that I do behind practicing, to the guitar. But it's not like some miracle, because the reality is that, certain things are common, like your fingers go down and they move flexibly and independently. But other things are so different. Like when you're playing guitar, you will do pull-offs or hammer-ons, and
the different ways of articulating,
and the rhythm of, when you pick, and those are things that don't really relate to a keyboard. So there are completely other techniques that there is no real advantage for me, other than maybe I have a good sense of rhythm, so I can absorb it as fast as anybody else would that has that. The dexterity, that's a given. I have dexterity from playing the keyboard, and maybe even some natural dexterity. That helps as well. The other thing that's, been actually slowing me down a little bit with my guitar efforts is that it's different muscles.
Yeah.
And I have this amazing custom 8-string that a builder named Druskovsky has built me. You can see that on my website too. A beautiful custom, what we call the Wizard guitar. It's a great 8-string. And I really got into playing that, but I realized that after playing it for a while, it's a big neck, because it's 8 strings.
Yeah.
It's different. So for me, who wasn't even practicing a lot on 6-string at that point, just getting back into it, there's a lot to hold on to. Yeah. And I think I might have been pressing a little too, grabbing a little too hard also, just because I'm relatively new to the whole thing. So I had to kind of lay off a little bit and go, okay, well, those muscles need to relax. I switched to practicing on my 6-string, and I got this really amazing Strandberg guitar. It's the prog model. That makes sense, right? Yeah. And it's very, very light, and it's 6 strings. So I've been practicing on that, working my way up, slowly this time, to where I can hold my 8-string without any kind of discomfort. So it's been a journey. It's been amazing. And I've always kind of been very guitar conscious, understanding, as I have, played here and there, but the idea of vibrato and that kind of thing, which keyboard players usually don't think about too much, has always been very natural for me, especially because of not only my background in playing the guitar occasionally through the years, but also because on all my software, all my musical instruments, on iOS devices and other devices too, but all have this idea of vibrato, or, change one note, not the other one. You can bring in you can change whatever it is, the timbre of one note while moving another one differently, or vibrato, one note, not the other. All very natural for a guitar player, because every finger that goes down, you're going to possibly do different things with, but on a synthesizer or keyboard, different kind of thinking usually. So
that's one thing I've always noticed with your playing, is your ability to sort of mimic the phrasing of a guitar with using the pitch wheel and stuff like that, and mimicking vibrato, and that's what, so it kind of makes sense that you sort of have that kind of it's like being able to program drums when you're not a drummer. If you could think like them and then have the ability of, but of course, you're physically doing it on a keyboard,
but yeah, so many of us keyboard players these days are responsible for orchestrating.
Yeah.
Because your company makes so many different kinds of cool sounds, and every sound really has to be played in a different way. So as a keyboard player, you really have to become conscious of, okay, you're playing like a trumpet sound, and if you play like a low chord on it, it probably is going to sound ridiculous.
Yeah.
If you phrase it a certain way and you're sensitive to what is the sound, what sounds good with it, especially if you're trying to imitate, if you're orchestrating and using virtual instruments, then you have to, really kind of think like that and be sensitive to the sound and respond to it and know, what's appropriate and what's cool and what's not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to kind of have this conscious thing where, because each library can be very different, and you almost have to, use it to its strengths. Sometimes, you might get someone who gets a library and they just try to do something that's sort of out of bounds with what it can do. So it's also too learning how the library works and being able to use it.
How to approach it, yeah.
Exactly.
And you could even think just take the piano, for example. When someone's playing the piano or they're composing for the piano has a certain kind of sonority or texture about it where, you hit low notes, and the low notes occupy a lot of space, and the high notes, of course, are lighter. So some people will play lower kind of chords. And sometimes it's what are you doing? That doesn't sound really that good when you start playing in a low register, kind of in a thick way. I mean, if you're Beethoven, okay, well then you can, play a big chord and get away with it. But for most people, you think about the piano and you think about the way that it sounds throughout the register, and usually you separate low notes. So, you take more like Chopin or Debussy that really go beautifully for the piano, and you separate the notes a bit so there's space. And then in the top part, that's kind of it's the same kind of thinking as when you're, whatever instrument you're playing, conscious of where the frequencies tend to build up and resonate and overpower.
Totally.
All that kind of stuff. And also, obviously, one of the big things is the vibrato thing. I mean, certain instruments, it's all about the vibrato. We tell our favorite guitar players all have their own unique kind of way to deal with pitch, which is interesting. Like a Steve Morse on the guitar they'll have a really fast, vibrato, and it's really, really cool, but it's fast. And John Petrucci will do a slower, kind of wider vibrato, which is his signature. Everybody has their And that's how it's almost how we tell who they are. Who you turn on the radio and you hear a certain style, and just the way they deal with pitch and volume, it gives it away. So, and every instrument is like that. So as a keyboard player, you have to be sensitive to what is a flute really doing? Is it changing pitch, or is it an amplitude vibrato? You got to really listen and then try to, if you're a lot of times you're trying to imitate because you want to do something orchestral. Other times you're just creating something new, which is cool too. But it's about being really sensitive to sound, especially with using all the virtual instruments, which can be so powerful.
Yeah,
if used correctly.
Getting into the orchestrating stuff, have you ever dabbled in film scoring or writing for orchestra, for picture or anything like that?
I wrote a piece that I was just in the Czech Republic. I did a piece. It's a concerto that I wrote. It's called Explorations for Keyboard and Orchestra. I played it in about 4 different countries. It's an orchestral piece. And the way that it came about is I mocked it up in my studio. I composed it. I made it sound good in my studio. Excuse me. And then I went to an orchestrator to try to make sure that, I didn't write the trumpet an octave higher than it should play, or, if I wanted to play, if I heard a chord in my head on strings, I would just play the chord. Whereas, of course, you need to separate it out when you're writing for a real orchestra. And, a long story short is that when I got commissioned to write that piece, I had found this wonderful young talent whose name is Eren Başbu, who I've been working with for years, and he's a Turkish orchestrator and keyboardist as well. So he's the one that I worked with, and he kind of took my arrangement and brought it for real orchestra. So beyond that, most of the things I've done are like orchestrations, like with Dream Theater, where I'll, even when we did The Astonishing, I mocked up everything so we would hear it and understand what it is, and then handed it off to David Campbell, who then had a very clear idea of what we wanted, because it was basically sounding pretty good right out of our studio. And of course, he was able to bring it home and do all his magic to it and make it right. So I do a lot of orchestrations. Sometimes they're mock-ups. Other times they'll go on the record. As far as like film scores, and things like that, I've done a little bit, and actually these days I'm starting to position myself more towards the goal of doing more of that, because I look forward to, I'm kind of natural at that, although my focus has been recording and on the road stuff.
Yeah.
I'm kind of putting the word out there to people that I'm going to be applying a little bit more energy to that. So if there's any film producers or directors out there who listen to our podcast, don't be afraid to call me. I am interested to talk about that, because I think it's something that has been kind of waiting to happen.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, you definitely have all the chops to be able to do that. And I think, even just your ability to just improvise, really beautiful pieces, I think that, being able to sort of see a particular emotion on screen, being able to sort of tap into that, because since you've done so much kind of conceptual work within albums, and having a story and then sort of trying to write the music to kind of fit that.
Right.
So I think it's just like, it's, for me, seeing you get into that, it's just such a natural progression.
Yeah. Again, the reason I haven't done more is just a matter of time. I mean, and focus, because every door in the music industry is different, and you spend time kind of going through one and putting your energy into that. For me, it's about making records and touring. So the other things didn't get as developed. But we've had a whole lot of fun, and certainly done a lot of kind of like scoring for like things in the Dream Theater world, and I've come to a show very often. There's cool things in the screen, and we kind of do our own, art form like that. So
yeah, especially during I got to catch you guys. You guys came through LA, and you were playing The Astonishing live, and that was a really crazy experience, because I never really seen anything like that, where it was just sort of, you had all the crazy visuals going on that sort of tie in with the story. And so that was really cool. And getting back into the explorations of the keyboard and orchestra, what were some of the inspirations behind that piece? Because I was watching some of that, and it's crazy how it just kind of goes all over the place, but it's so, just musical. And
oh, thanks. Yeah. I come from a classical background, and it's really natural for me and important for me to kind of like put all those elements together. So Explorations is a really strong, kind of important outlet for me musically, to kind of take my classical influences, to blend them with the rock sensibility and anything else, and create that piece. So I was able to draw on my like Prokofiev, Stravinsky, Debussy influences, and mix that kind of with my like Dream Theater, really super prog influences, and kind of put that together. So my musical composing life is really about, fusing together all these elements. I've never been one to like be like a jazz musician, or I'm playing like, straight ahead rock. This is not who I am. It's maybe because I'm very spacey and open, and, I'm always taking all the influences and kind of blending them together in my own way.
Yeah.
On my new album, I'm especially guilty of that, because I've got some, people will hear I've got some music that's, I'm kind of referring to it as like hyper prog, where it's just nuts. It's just a lot of meter changes, all kinds of sound colors, and it's crazy. And for anybody who wants to go for the ride, I think it'll be really awesome. You have to sign up for a ticket, it's not the kind of music, I'm cleaning my room, whatever, I'll just kind of put this on over here and, just listen to it in the background.
Yeah.
gonna work. So, but a lot of my music is like that, So there's some stuff on my new solo album that I would say is very much like that, where it's fairly demanding. But if you're a prog, / like electronic head and love to go for musical journeys, then I would highly recommend it. You might really enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be amazing. With all the different projects and people you've gotten to work with, are there any musicians or types of things you would like to do that you haven't done? Or is it more kind of like sort of what you're doing with the solo project? Is that kind of more like you being able to just kind of unleash everything that you've been wanting to do in the span of one album?
Well, considering that I have very few hobbies and I'm all about the music and I really am passionate about it, there's so many things within the musical space that I love to do that, I can't, that I don't always get to do enough of. And I never will, because the reality is that I love to sit at the piano or record solo piano albums. Mm-hmm. I love to play almost like healing kind of piano music and, not only to kind of soothe or heal myself, but also to offer that music to everybody around the world to create this nice energy and to play classical music on the piano for sure. I love playing Chopin. I love playing Bach. So like even a different thing only within the piano realm. I love doing my, expressive controllers, playing things like the Geoshred or the Seaboard or the Continuum. That's a whole nother thing. I have an album that I released with Steve Horlick, which just came out not that long ago. Intersonic, which is pretty cool. It's more a bit improvisatory based, kind of electronic music, but a lot of piano in it as well. Oh, okay. And then all the rock stuff, which is big part of who I am as well. Yeah. So I just, every day I wake up and there's different things to do, and and when I'm not, really busy doing what's on the absolute have to do this list, I'll sit at the piano and turn on a live Facebook thing and just play for people and get a little international gathering going and on improvising, So that's kind of like my musical world. But within it, there's there's definitely certain people that I love to bring into it and to play music with, like, my friend Marco Miniman, who's such an amazing drummer who, eats odd meters for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah, he's a beast.
Yeah, or like, the last some albums that now I've been inviting Guthrie Govan to play, and those guys play together in the Aristocrats. So, but Guthrie's an amazing guitar player. I just reunited with my friend Vinnie Moore. I played a little bit for him on something he's got going. He played something for me on my new album as well. We do some trading. Cool. So yeah, lots of fun stuff. I did a project kind of recently with Mohini Day, who's a young bass protege from India. And so that was really, really fun. Matter of fact, it was a project of kind of putting together the world of Indian music and Western music and using Geoshred as a focus. Worked with this great producer, another Geoshred player, whose name is Mahesh Raghavan, who's a wonderful Carnatic musician, and he also embraces technology. And together we put together this really, really cool song that I wrote. We had a vocal percussionist that's called Kanakal. This guy BC Manjunath. It's one of the world's greatest Indian vocal percussionists. Yeah, people can see that online. It's called Light Becomes Day.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's really pretty fun and cool. So I like doing those kind of combinations too, where I work with musicians from other cultures, because there's so much to learn from that.
Oh yeah,
fascinating, So
yeah, are there any musicians that you haven't had a chance to work with that you would really like to work with?
Yeah, there's all kinds of people. Some of them are not alive anymore, so it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Right. But maybe one day I'll do something with Steve Vai, who I think is so talented. We've never really had a chance to do anything together.
Oh, that would be cool.
Good example of somebody, but I don't know. It's really complicated because all of us musicians who are out there working and have careers have a list of things that we have to want to do. And it's difficult to make time for things that are just not like on the absolute top of your, spectrum of personal things that you need to do.
Yeah.
So
where do you kind of see the world of keyboards going and just, the keyboard technology? Because I always see, sometimes you have these different forms of technology of, sort of taking, the traditional aspect of playing keyboard or piano and just, doing it in a whole nother way. Like, is there anything that you would like to see that hasn't been done?
Yeah, well, I'm so involved with the technology, and I still believe in like performance. A lot of keyboard players are more, about being in the studio and just kind of playing whatever parts are needed for a particular album. So they're not so much like performing keyboardists. That's something that unfortunately has kind of minimized over recent years. There's not that many guys doing it, but I feel like there's so much space for that. I feel like it's a really important kind of way to create music, because the keyboards, first of all, they keep on getting more and more powerful. They're more and more flexible. There's things like C-boards that allow keyboardists to do all kinds of interesting things. Plus the keyboards themselves are so powerful. There's so much you can do. So I'm very involved on the technology level, where I kind of help to shape the future of what these instruments will do. And then on a musical level, where I see, ways to use them in new expressive ways, where you can accomplish musical expression that you can never do before. But, a lot of that kind of takes practice and skill and time, because you're working on technique to be able to take what's in your musical mind and make it come out of an instrument. A little bit different than just kind of like being in the studio and, taking whatever amount of time you need to just kind of like figure out to play a part. So I'm a big believer in like performance and technology and moving forward and being able to offer musicians, the kind of performance tools that will allow them to reach new levels of being able to make music. So part of what I do is, put a lot of energy out there towards continuing, making sure that kind of continues. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely a cool thing to sort of, to not be bound by the limitations of an instrument, especially with piano, because it's so traditional. And like I actually got to play around with one of the C-board keyboards. I went to Guitar Center a week or so ago, and me and my girlfriend were playing around with it. And you just you could just be on the bottom part and just tap it and then slide your finger, and you just get these crazy, like, it just completely changes. It just does these sounds that you would never think anything related to a keyboard would do. And it's really awesome to sort of see, where technology is going as far as, because that, being a guitarist, it's things I would not even really be able to do, or sounds I would never be able to make. So it's just really cool to, that tools like that are coming out.
And that kind of thinking, what you played on the keyboard, is very much what I've been involved with for so many years, even before the keyboard existed. I had created an app called MorphWiz, which was all about that kind of sliding and playing on a vertical grid on a playing surface and being able to morph between waveforms. So the first experimentation with all that kind of stuff was really done within the multi-touch environment, where you could have notes that are under different fingers and doing different kinds of things. I don't know if you've ever heard or seen MorphWiz, but let's see if I can just call it up real quick and you can hear it. That's not going to happen on this. Maybe it'll happen on this device while we're chatting. But MorphWiz was done a bunch of years ago, and it was one of the first ones to really allow for that kind of expression. Looked like that, but sonically speaking, it was this type of idea where you could play a note, slide, and also you can move your finger in the vertical dimension across the note, and you could also use the screen axis or the device axis to. There's all kinds of flexi. And every note is independent, so one finger could be high, one finger could be low. And that kind of led the way to people starting to think about, well, okay, well, it's cool you can do it in software, but how are we going to create a hardware instrument out of this?
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, pretty wild stuff. And of course, my newest invention is the GeoShred thing, which looks more like this kind of a thing, right?
Yeah, I remember seeing that. It almost looks like a fretboard, like the different little buttons look like frets. Like, and you can go and set it to different scales and stuff, right?
Yeah. So there's a lot of different sounds, but the one that people are drawn to a lot is this kind of ability to play leads and stuff. So you can be like. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's super cool.
Actually, for those people who don't know, so this is I'm running this on an iPad right now, but it runs on an iPhone. And also, the cool thing is that in addition to the onboard sounds, and all the sounds in this particular synthesizer are based on physical modeling, which is how to create sound. But it's also a MIDI controller. So much like a keyboard or something like that, all this kind of cool sliding and vibrato can be sent out to any synthesizer you like. So whether it's a Soundiron virtual instrument, you just basically allow the this device to talk to your computer, and it will do all the kind of cool pitch bending and stuff that this will do. It's
awesome.
It's a very intelligent. Without getting into details, one of the things that makes this really cool is that it's totally fretless, right?
Yeah.
But when your finger does go down in a note, it's going to be perfectly in tune. And as soon as you start to move, it'll track your finger. So when you slide from point A to point B, like let's say I go from G to D, which is that. When I start on G, it'll be in tune. And when I slide, I'll make a perfectly smooth slide. When I end up on B, it'll be in tune again until I start to move. So if I slide and then stop my finger, it'll tune up. And then as soon as I move, it'll do the thing. So you can be like, play. And then slide back in tune. And then I can move a little. So it's really.
Yeah.
And it's also, you're hearing the sound, I'm exciting the physical model by doing vibratos. You can hear it's kind of almost like feeding back. So I'm giving energy to the model just like a guitarist would give energy to a string by vibrato. So, it's kind of like some of the stuff that I think about. And a lot of that kind of sliding stuff has been in my life for a long time, ever since, like I said, Morphwiz. So like the Seaboard, when I started to work with those guys on that, it was like it was a natural development for me. The Seaboard was a brainstorm of my friend Roland Lamb, who's a very creative and smart guy who was at art school when he had the idea for this and started to do these silicon pores that he would like make this instrument, and he just kind of went from there. But for me, it's like a natural development to put some of that kind of sliding stuff underneath.
Yeah.
Like a keyboardist's hands to be able to make music like that.
Yeah, because that's one thing a piano will never do. You can never go in between microtones, and just being able to sort of shift between that. So that's really cool. And
exactly. The other instrument, one of the other ones that I play is this one. It's not plugged in at the moment, but this is made by Roger Lynn. It's called a Linstrument, and this one has these little like square kind of like places where the notes are, but you can slide left to right as well and do vibrato, and it will also do pressure. So
it's touch sensitive and all that. I think I remember looking into one of those. I was looking for some MIDI controllers because Stanley Jordan, I got really into him because he does the whole 2-hand tapping thing, and he used to have this this crazy instrument. It wasn't necessarily it looked like a guitar, but each fret where it would like be a string on that fret was like little push buttons, and you can kind of change the sound into whatever you want. I think Alan Holdsworth used to have
a Synthax.
Kind of like that. The Synthax, yeah, he used to have something sort of similar. And I think I was looking into one of those because I was trying to find something that had that kind of, something sort of close to guitar with, not necessarily strings, but not necessarily a keyboard. So
yeah.
What was the instrument that I remember I used to see some old videos of you. It was like a big red keyboard that had kind of the same thing, like you'd be able to sort of...
Yeah, that's called the Continuum.
Yeah, that one's really cool.
Yeah, there's some good video of me playing that online, like with Dream Theater and in other places too. Yeah, that's a very amazing, beautiful instrument, very sensitive, kind of a flat surface made out of it's a neoprene surface, like the kind of stuff a diver would wear. But same concept, where each finger is its own independent entity. You can move up or down or slide, do vibrato or press in. And from a MIDI point of view, what's happening is that every note you play, and which is what I'm about to say is the case with all of these instruments, where every time your finger goes down, it's basically on a different MIDI channel. So the information is getting sent out separately. So one finger will move and, send out a pitch bend, while the other one's maybe moving vertically, and that's sending out some other continuous controller. So all these instruments work similarly, whether it's a Seaboard or a Lenstrument or a Continuum or a GeoShred.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, on that note, besides blowing my mind with some impromptu GeoShred, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and talk with me. And it's really cool to see all the amazing stuff that you're working on. And as a fan, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing you guys coming out. After the new Dream Theater album comes out, seeing you guys live, and it's going to be a really cool album, I'm pretty sure.
Very good. Well, thanks so much for having me, Craig. I appreciate being on your podcast. And look forward to seeing you and everybody else on the road when we hit the road.
Awesome. Thanks again.
Cool. All right. Bye.
And if you'd like to stay up to date with everything that Jordan's working on, make sure to go to jordanrudess.com. As always, we want to thank you guys for tuning into the podcast. And if you enjoy these podcasts, please make sure to subscribe so you can catch all the episodes as we post them, as we're always trying to bring you guys awesome content and really great interviews with really awesome composers and musicians. And also, if you do enjoy these podcasts, please make sure to spread the word, tell your friends. If you find us on iTunes and Apple Podcasts, make sure to like us, rate us, give us a review, and let us know what you guys think. So until next time, I want to say thanks again for listening, and we will see you soon.